I met this girl when I was 10 years old, and what I loved most, she had so much soul. Hey everybody, it's Old School Heart back with another conversation for you guys. I hope that you guys have had a very reflective, wonderful week. I do apologize for not getting a cultural conversation video out to you guys on Sunday. I needed some rest. I was tired, extremely tired, was extremely busy this weekend trying to hustle and do some other things. So I do apologize. So cultural conversations will come back this Sunday. So pardon my attendance. I do apologize for that. But there's been so many things that have happened in the last couple of days. And so we definitely have some things to discuss. I do want to remind you to make sure that you are watching your energy, that you're watching what you're watching. There are so many things that have happened this past week that we can become distracted by trauma. And so what I want you to do is to make sure that you're spending some time away from anything that is negative, that causes a deep response in you, a response to be negative, a response to be sad, angry, any of that. I need you to take a break. Find something that makes you happy, something that gives you joy. Do that. Step away from all of that trauma and bring happiness to you again. Center yourself. Bring that energy that you need in order to focus on what's positive in your life. Bring that back to the core, to the center of you, because we can be so distracted by trauma, by all that's going on in the world, that it can really distract us from our purpose. And we know our purpose is greater than trauma. So I hope that you are finding an opportunity to redirect your energy, to focus your energy on what is positive. So now that we're back, we will not delay our episode of Where My Girls At. This has been consistent on here. And once again, if this is tough for you guys, please take a break. But this is one of those series that the word has to get out there. We have to talk about our missing Black women. We have to bring attention to them so that some of these women can come back, so we can find out what has happened to some of these women. But once again, if this is hard for you, just share the video so that the word can get out. Watch the video when your mind is centered, it's clear, it's at a happy state. Watch this video when you can. So let's get into today's episode of Where My Girls At, episode 7, Keeshae Jacobs. So guys, let's have a heart-to-heart conversation. Today I did something that I hadn't done in quite some time. Today I called my dad and I said that I'm sorry. And the reason why I said that I am sorry is because even though I'm fully grown, I am most definitely an adult. I never make sure he or my mother are in the know of what's going on in my life. And what I mean by that, being in the know of what's going on in my life, is doing these missing girl videos has helped me to realize that it's important to keep my family informed about who I'm with, who I'm around, and where I'm going. I think that, you know, as an adult, sometimes we forget that that is truly important. And it's not until you either end up in this situation or you hear about certain situations that you realize how important it is for your family to know who your friends are, who you're dating, where you're going. You know, especially if you are young and single, like me, you know, just it's really important for your family to know who you're dating, like where you met that person, what street he lives on, where you're going. Those are things as an adult you go, you know, I really don't have to give my parents this information, but it's so important for them to have it, especially as we go through this missing persons case in particular. It's important that we realize that even as adults, someone needs to know your information. Someone needs to know where you're at. And it's also important for you parents out there to not necessarily pry into your child's information or pry into your adult child's life. Of course, it's really none of your business, but in a sense, it is your business because of the story that I'm going to tell today. Even though you may not want to pry, it's still important to know your kids' best friends, who they hang around, you know, the person that they're dating, where they live, where they come from, where they frequent, where their parents live. These are important things to know, just to have as back information. So I just wanted to share that with you guys, that I had to just call my dad and just really make sure that he and I had an understanding that if I was to go on a date or if I was to go out with a group of friends, that at least he would know, you know, of my whereabouts. So although you may not want your parents to know everything, although you may not want your parents to pry in your information, one thing about this young lady's story in particular is it will help you to realize just how important it is as parents, as daughters, to keep a great line of communication. So I don't want to hold you any longer. This is the story of the disappearance of Keeshae Jacobs. Where My Girls At, episode 7. Keeshae Jacobs was born during one of the happiest times of the year, New Year's Day, 1995. A day where we all assume our lives are going to get better, a sort of start over. We hope a little bit more. We have resolutions and goals that ultimately we may quit or never even start to begin with. But New Year's Day always gives us joy. And that's what I'd like to think Keeshae was a ball of joy. When you're born during that time, I think you just have to be, right? Like, you have to be a ball of complete joy. And Keeshae and her family were super close. It was just the three of them, actually. Her mom, Toni, her older brother, Devon, and Keeshae. I like to think of them as the three musketeers. They lived in the Westover neighborhood of Richmond, Virginia. Mom, Toni, did her best to take care of her two kids, making sure that they got everything they wanted and needed. And Keeshae and Toni, mom, were very, very close. Of course, as mother-daughter, and being the only daughter of the family, of course, they were super, super close. Whatever Keeshae wanted to participate in, Mom, Toni, was there for support. When she was in school, she was a cheerleader, and I believe she was a cheerleader in middle school and high school. And so she participated in cheerleading, and Mom was right there front row being the cheerleading coach. Keeshae and Toni were inseparable, especially when her brother Devon was incarcerated, which makes this disappearance hard to swallow because Toni and Keeshae always talked several times throughout the day. They never went a day without talking to each other. So let's fast forward to September 26, 2016. Keeshae has graduated from high school at this point. You know, we're talking a couple of years from high school, actually. So she's graduated high school. She's working various jobs. During this time, she is still staying at home, which is no problem with Tony. Tony doesn't have a problem with this at all because it's only the three of them. And the reason why I say it's the three of them is because a couple of months before Keeshae's disappearance, Davon is released from jail. So once again, it's September 26, 2016. Keeshae texted her mother and said, hey, I won't be coming home. Going to stay the night at a friend's house. Now, Tony didn't think anything of this because Keeshae is a grown woman. She is 21 years old. And her and Keeshae talked every day. And so she knew she would hear from her within the next couple, I would say she knew that she would hear from her in a day or so, right? But the next day came and no phone call from Keeshae, which is odd. It's really, really strange because Tony, Keeshae's mom, says that her and Keeshae always talk during Tony's lunch break. And Tony, at this time, is a dispatcher. So she has a lunch break at the same time pretty much every day from 11 a.m. to 12 p.m. So Tony must have knew that something was off because she calls, she even calls Davon to see if he had heard from Keeshae. And what he tells Tony is, hey, I heard from her the night before, but I haven't heard from her since. And so Tony finishes working her job as she usually would. During this time, she is still trying to, in some way, communicate with Keeshae through the cell phone. When she returns home, she realized Keeshae has not come home yet at all. And so she calls the phone throughout the night, trying to see, you know, where Keeshae is, waiting around her house, not leaving the house to see if Keeshae will return back to the house. So it gets to almost 2 a.m. the next day, and Keeshae has not returned any of the phone calls or made it back home. So it's at this time that Tony goes ahead and files a missing persons report with Richmond Police Department. So as the cops are slowly investigating, and we'll talk about that whole issue with them being slow to investigate. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As they are being slow investigating, Tony and Keeshae's closest friends start going door to door, trying to gather information about Keeshae's whereabouts. So as Tony is searching for Keeshae, Keeshae's friends finally come clean and admit they were with Keeshae the night before, which for some odd reason they denied previously when she asked. Now, they tell Tony that they did all hang out with Keeshae the night of her disappearance. They did tell her that. But they dropped her off in Church Hill, which I guess is a couple of blocks from where Keeshae and Tony live. Like Church Hill is like a couple of blocks or not so far from where they live. So they drop her off at Church Hill to meet someone, but they don't know who this person is. So the person that drove her to Church Hill was a friend by the name of DeMarcus Hunt. Now, stay with me here so that this can all make sense. Okay, so DeMarcus stated that when he drove Keeshae to this mysterious house, he thought it was to meet one of her girlfriends that he also knew as well. And that this girlfriend sent him a text saying that they were, Keeshae and the girl were together. However, this girlfriend that DeMarcus said he received the text from said that DeMarcus was lying, that she never sent a text to him saying that Keeshae and her were together. So I hope you guys got that. It's a little bit of a mix-up, but that's what I guess those two were both lying, or one said one is lying. But either way it go, they are trying to make sure they ain't got nothing to do with this disappearance, I think. So throughout this entire time, the cops are doing their investigation, and Mom Tony is doing her own investigation as well. She is not going to be waiting on the police department to do any work. She's going to go find out stuff on her own. So this mysterious person on Church Hill, Tony's like, look, I'm going to drive over there to this mysterious person's house that her friends say they dropped Keeshae off at. So what happens is Tony asks this man at this mysterious house that they dropped Keeshae off at, did he know Keeshae? And he says he does, and that Keeshae actually did come to his house that night of her disappearance. But she came, she stopped by for a little bit. She called somebody to come pick her up, and she jetted and said that she was leaving, and that was it. Now, the crazy thing about this story with this mysterious man that lives on Church Hill is he changed his story a number of times during this conversation. So what I'm thinking is Tony hasn't revealed that she's Mom. At least I don't think that she admitted that she was Mom. And so whoever this mysterious man is, he has told Tony 150 million stories. And so Tony is like, these stories is not adding up. She doesn't tell him, but she says these stories is not adding up. She takes that information to the Richmond Police Department, and she lets them investigate this mysterious man, this girl who was supposed to meet up with Keeshae, and of course DeMarcus, who drove Keeshae to this house on Church Hill. And unfortunately, as of right now, the investigation into those three people, the friend, DeMarcus, and the mystery man on Church Hill, they've all been investigated, but the police department has been very tight-lipped about this investigation and has not released any information. So we don't know what's going on with those three people, but I'll let you guys decide what's happening with those three. Now, I do not know the age of the mystery man, but I'm assuming that the age of DeMarcus and this young girlfriend, they're all around the same age of Keeshae at the time. So they're super, super young, 21, 22, 23 is what I am suspecting. But as of right now, this is still an ongoing investigation. And so the police are being very, very tight-lipped about these individuals and any other individuals related to this case. So outside of what Tony has gathered on her own private investigation, as well as Keeshae's friends and the police department, there hasn't been a lot of development with this missing persons case in particular, because sadly, the night that Keeshae went missing, her phone basically was like off. Her phone was shut off. So they don't have much leads from the cell phone. Also, there is no bank account withdrawals or deposits or anything like that. So nothing was removed from the bank account. And the social media was untouched. We're talking Facebook, Twitter, all of that, Instagram, none of that was touched. So nobody has been in her account or anything like that thus far. So this has been a really hard missing persons case, because outside of the three people that said that they had contact with Keeshae during that time, there's not much of a lead after that. Now, the crazy thing is, like the real crazy thing is, Keeshae was really pretty much a homebody. A lot of people describe her as being okay with the close, tight-knit friendships she had from people that she knew in high school or around the neighborhood. She wasn't a bar person at all. She wasn't a club person at all. She just liked her little tight circle. She loved being with her mom. They were frequent watchers of horror movies and different things like that. But she wasn't on the club scene at all. She wasn't somebody that was a pop-off or someone that liked to hang out quite a bit. And so everybody knew that, especially Tony, especially mom, knew that this was just out of the ordinary. This was just not who Keeshae was. She was not someone that would just disappear without anybody knowing about her whereabouts. A couple of months actually go by, right? And Tony is still diligently looking for Keeshae, as she should be. This is her daughter. Unfortunately, even with a child missing, Tony is met with people just wanting some time in the spotlight. And remember, we talked about that before, that when someone goes missing and it becomes really public, it becomes really big in social media and different things like that, it brings out the creepy in people. It brings out people just wanting some form of attention. Like even with like the Bradley sisters, remember that we had that talk about them, how the aunt, you know, had that Facebook group, and this one girl came and said she was one of the Bradley sisters. And when the aunt was asking specific questions that only the Bradley sisters would know, this person that was on social media would get irritated and be like, I'm surprised you don't know who I am. And then come to find out that, you know, it was this girl faking like she was a Bradley sister, but everybody knew who she was. Or even with that case with like Phoenix Colden, where that guy said he knew Phoenix Colden's uncle. And he had told the uncle that he had saw her in another state, but she looked like she didn't want to be bothered. And that he didn't feel like it was up to him to, you know, give that information. And so, unfortunately, Tony has been a victim to people who really take time out to gain social media attention and fame, unfortunately. And they do it at the hands of innocent parents just trying literally to look for their kids. And so Tony, like I said, was met with these same people who would prank call her and just say, hey, I'm Keeshae. I don't want to come back home. Or, hey, this is Keeshae. I'm living here, blah, 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 blah. Or they would give Tony the wrong information. So, you know, Tony's been through that. Or they would send messages through social media saying they knew where Keeshae was, or they were Keeshae, where to find Keeshae, all of this stuff. And it was all just prank, all trying to be funny. Unfortunately, at Tony's expense. And the sad part is because Tony is one of those parents that's going to go after every lead. Unfortunately, it's just resulted in being let down or going down a rabbit hole. You know, we talked about that with Phoenix Colden's parents, how they have invested all of their money in searching for Phoenix, and it's resulted in them losing their home. I believe it was Phoenix Colden, family who they lost their home because of this. And so unfortunately, Tony has been a victim to this harassment as well. Then 4 months into the disappearance of Keeshae, her son Davon is killed. He's killed, murdered in front of a Motel 6 in the local area. People started to wonder, did Davon's death have anything to do with Keeshae's disappearance? Or actually vice versa. It can work either way, because it was said that Davon may have divulged in distribution of drugs or drug trafficking or something like that. And so there was always this suspicion that the two cases were related, but the police have stated that the cases were totally separate, especially not to mention they found Davon's killer actually a couple of days after he was murdered. And that person was found guilty of second-degree murder. And I believe they have a upcoming sentencing, or they've already been sentenced, and I just wasn't able to find out that information. Now, out of all of the missing person cases that I've covered, this one has to be the most tragic because she only had these two children. The other people that I've focused on have had multiple kids, except I believe Phoenix Colden. I think she was the only child of those particular parents. But this has to be heartbreaking for Toni. One child you have murdered in the community, and another is missing in the same community. One thing that I have not talked in great deal about is how much parents transform their lives when their child goes missing. These parents, all of them that I have covered, have turned their pain into activism, similarly to the mothers of the movement. And when I say the mothers of the movement, I'm talking about Trayvon Martin's mom, Sabrina, Jordan Davis's mom, Trayvon Martin's dad. These people have really turned their pain into activism and have become very, very vocal in the community about their children, about their the deaths of their children and the missing persons case and lack of media attention of their children. And so Toni, along with all of the parents of these missing girls, have continued to keep their children's name alive, and also bringing awareness to other families who have children that are missing as well. They've done a great job at activism, and Toni has done her part to contribute to missing children activism as well. So very, very, very proud of her for what she has done. So one of the things that Toni has mentioned in interviews and different conversations that she's had over the years is that Keeshae, as well as Devon, had always encouraged her to go back to school. So Toni actually has decided to go back to community college to get her associate degree. So not only is she an activist, but she's also pursuing a higher education. She created a missing persons awareness event that she holds annually every April, and actually the next one will be April 24th. So I'll post the flyers so you'll have the information of this annual event that she has that brings, once again, awareness to all of the Black young girls and young men that are currently missing and have not been found. Toni also administrates the Help Find Keeshae Jacobs Facebook page. I'll leave that information for you as well so that you can like it and you can see updates about Keeshae Jacobs' missing persons case. She's appeared on numerous TV and news outlets, including doing a full interview about the disappearance of Keeshae Jacobs on the ID channel. Now, I don't know if you'll be able to find the episode if you're not subscribed to the ID channel or you're not paying extra, but there is a program contributed to finding efforts for Keeshae Jacobs as well. And here's the part that I am super, super proud of Toni for doing. Super, super proud of her for this. Most recently, she has joined a special committee created by the Richmond Police Department to help improve community relations. The committee was put together to help build a relationships among the community and the police department. Now, Toni stated that this was needed badly, as initially she felt pushed to the side when she reported Keeshae missing. She said that initially when she contacted Richmond Police Department to say that Keeshae was missing, that they immediately told her that Keeshae was a runaway. And so she felt slighted by the police department. And over the course of the weeks of working with them and investigating, making sure they were doing their job, they gained a different perspective from Toni. What they realized is that Keeshae could have never, with the family that she had and the person that she was, that she could have never just ran away. That this had to be met with some type of foul play, right? And so when Toni was selected to be on this special committee, that was one of the things that she wanted the police chief, the new police chief, to understand, was that she was very, very slighted when she came, but they did try to make an effort to make it up to her and get the investigation rolling. But being a part of the community, it was important to articulate that that can be a big problem when you're already making assumptions in the community, when the community needs you to listen. And so Toni said that one of her roles is going to be to give the honest truth to the police department about how they handle certain situations, how they communicate, and also to learn public policy and procedures so that she can be a liaison between the community and the cops, so that she can be informed on how to keep the community informed on these policies, so that if anything does affect them, they will be in the know. So Toni states, you know, she hopes to just do a really, really good job. She submitted a resume. She wrote a paper about being on this special committee, and they selected her. And so super, super proud for Toni for taking her passion, taking her pain and making it a passion, as she most diligently waits for Keeshae's return, because she does not believe that Keeshae is dead. She knows, or she believes that someone knows about Keeshae's whereabouts, that she knows that Keeshae eventually will come home. Now, unlike the other girls that I have done, this one is the closest to 2021. So 2016, 2021, it hasn't been that long. But of course, I will leave the missing persons information, so that if you have any information about Keeshae, her whereabouts, who she was last with, if you heard any stories or anything like that, please don't make anything up. But if you know anything, I will definitely leave the contact information so that you can call that number and give them any information that you have. So Toni has been doing this annual missing persons. They most definitely still, in September 26th, bring up her disappearance. Make sure that, you know, every year they bring awareness to that date. That was the date that she was missing. So Toni is doing a really, really good job at keeping Keeshae's name alive, as she should be doing. As a parent, you know, I would expect nothing less from any of these parents that I've talked about thus far. So unfortunately, like I said, there hasn't been very much on this case at all. And we are just hoping that Keeshae returns. We're hoping that she is unharmed and that she will be back with her family, because it's just different This case is different in particular. And I want to know from you guys, what do you think about the three friends? What do you think about this girl and this texting, the mysterious man on Church Hill, and also the friend that drove her to Church Hill, or any of the friends that she had contact with that night? Do you think that they know more than they say that they know? It kind of reminds me of that one girl here in Chicago that was left in the freezer, where the friends were too scared to say something, or they didn't want to have any involvement in the case at all. It kind of reminds me of that. Who do you think knows what happened to Keeshae? And do you think that she's still alive? Let me know in the comments below. Also, I will be returning for Cultural Conversations this Sunday. We have a lot to discuss. We really, really do. But as always, I want you to stay safe, stay positive, and please, if you have learned anything about this case in particular, it's okay for your parents to pry. It's okay for you to let them know where you're going. I don't blame Keeshae. I don't blame her mom at all for not prying enough or anything like that. Her daughter is an adult. Her daughter was an adult. But as a conscious adult, when you hear these types of cases, make sure you're doing your part to inform your family of who you're hanging with, where you're going, and different things like that. And parents, even if they do say you being real nosy, say it's my job to be. And try to get as much information as possible. It's just the right thing to do, so that as much prevention as you can. If you can prevent something, prevent not knowing who your child's friends are, where they're going, and different things like that. So be safe out there, love on each other, and make sure you keep great energy. This is Old School Heart. Have a great day. Bye-bye.